What is up, guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here. In today's episode, we are doing another market watch, but this one is going to be a little bit different, right? Today we are going to look at some of the most ridiculously expensive, but still somewhat meta-relevant cards in the game at the moment. So the collector's market for Yu-Gi-Oh has really evolved a lot, and we see some older max rarity cards hit some pretty insane price points, right? So many players want to bling out their decks, and they're going to great lengths just to do that. So what we're going to do is review some of these older cards and take a look at why they've hit these ridiculous prices. One note here though, normally in market watches I discuss whether or not I think that these cards should be bought or sold or held onto. In this video, I'm not going to be doing that, right? If you're holding onto one of these cards, there's a very good chance that you know how much the card is worth and you're holding onto it for that reason. If you don't, then well, as a general rule, I would say sell the card, buy a cheaper version of the card, and get a nice bit of cash set aside for yourself in the process. But yeah, that being said, let's get started. Okay, so we're starting off reasonably tame here with Eradicator Epidemic Virus, specifically the secret rare first edition version from Force of the Breaker. So EEV is something that a few different decks have looked into playing recently as a hard counter to decks like Sky Striker or Altergeist that are extremely heavily dependent on either spells or traps, as it can blow out all of one type of card from the field and your opponent's hand and the next cards they draw, making it really devastating if you can set up this card when you're going first. Also, it can be actually quite easy to meet the requirement to activate this card in decks like Thunder Dragon, where you can just put up Colossus really easily, or anything that runs the Danger engine, really. Anyways, so for a secret first ed version, we are looking at $70 for a single copy, which of course is pretty high up there. Personally, I would much rather play my ultra rare from the legendary collection Kaiba, but yeah, this price is actually pretty tame compared to some of the other cards we're going to talk about on this list. Next up, we have Neo-Spacian Aqua Dolphin. So if you've played competitive Yu-Gi-Oh over the last year or two, you've probably seen this card as it is summoned with Neo Space Connector to rip a hand trap out of your hand, and then used to link summon is sold and start off some crazy combos. Of course, as an older ultimate rare, you can expect to pay $80 for a single copy of this card if first edition. This is especially crazy to me because while the ultimate rare Neo-Spacians have always been cute like collectible cards, I never really thought that they'd hit this insane value. I mean, Grand Mole used to be like a really good card, right? And I thought that that card being like $20 at one point was kind of silly. But yeah, even though the Assault engine isn't really as strong as it was before, given how everything is now playing like some variation of Guard Dragon or Orchest, the fact that it is a Neo-Spacian really helps to keep this card's price up there in terms of value. Next, we have Tour Guide from the Underworld, an ultimate rare from Astral Pack 6. Now, at $68 a copy, this card isn't the most expensive card on the list. However, what we have to remember is that this card is currently at 1 on the ban list, and even then, it isn't seeing any meta play at all, right? This is a pretty hefty price tag for something like this. Raigeki and then Synchro Trishula are also ultimate rares that are played generally only at 1, and are each arguably used more than Tour Guide is in the meta right now, and each of those is sitting at only like $30 to $35, maybe $40 a piece. However, I think that a big point with this card is that it used to be really expensive, right? As when it was only available as a secret rare, this card hit like $150 a piece. Also, this card is a really iconic one. It was a key card in popular decks like Burning Abyss and then something like Dino Rabbits, and it was even featured on the YCS 100 mat. Finally, even though it is at 1 right now, it is very possible that the card will come back to 3 on an upcoming ban list, which would almost certainly put this card's price point past $100. Now, let's talk about Maxie for a second. So this card is currently still banned, but we actually see it as one of the more expensive cards in the game. It is an ultimate rare from Astral Pack 4, so nothing like super old. However, as a banned card, the ultimate rare version is still over $160, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. This card has been banned since February of 2018, although in the OCG it is still playable at 3. I think that the fact that the OCG can still play it, combined with the fact that it's pretty like expensive all across the board for all different rarities, means that a lot of players are holding onto it, hoping that it's going to come back to the game at some point, and as a result shoot back up in price. Maxie would of course be a very strong card if it were playable in today's meta. However, personally, I don't think it's coming back anytime soon. I have a set of supers just in case, because if it were to come back, all copies of it would instantly like triple in value or something. However, at $160 a copy, like $500 for a playset of this card. I think that is just too much money to put into a card where you're just stuck hoping that one day it'll be unbanned. Okay, so another hand trap here. This time we have Effect Veiler. So right now, absolutely everyone is playing hand traps and everything. From Ash Blossom to Phantasme to Infinite Impermanence. Effect Veiler is kind of like one of the oldest hand traps, right? As we saw this card played back in like Dino Rabbit format days, for a while it did kind of fall out of favor to cards like Ash Blossom. However, recently we've seen it played even alongside Infinite Impermanence just because effect negation when your opponent is going first can be so valuable. So as one of these older cards, there is a pretty big price differential between the Unlimited, which is only around $90, and the First Eds, which are like almost double that at $160 a piece. Again, that's like $500 for a playset of First Ed Ulti Effect Veilers. Personally, I think that the price of this card has just kind of like hit its peak. Effect Veiler is seeing as much play now as it probably ever will. It's kind of outclassed by something like Infinite Impermanence, and with all of the other hand traps that are now available in the game, it could very easily fall out of favor once again. Also, at the same time, Ultimate Rare Effect Veilers are like really hard to move for some reason. In my own experience, I've found buyers for Ulti Maxie or Ulti Tour Guide, but finding someone who's willing to pay up for Ulti Effect Veilers, especially when you have decent alternatives in like the ultra rare versions, is actually quite a challenge. Next, we have a card that is a bit older. We have Ultimate Rare Turbo Pack Dark Armed Dragon. So Dark Armed currently isn't seeing any play in the TCG at the moment and is still limited, but it was just recently unlimited in the OCG. Now, I don't believe it's actually having any sort of competitive impact over there. I think that this has kind of led to the hope that we'll see Dark Armed go to at least 2 in the TCG here, which, regardless of whether or not it will impact the meta, will naturally push this card's price upwards. Actually, this card has steadily gone up in price over the last few years. I remember being able to actually buy these cards for like $30 to $40, maybe $50 a piece a few years ago, and it was actually seeing about as much play then as it is now. But now you are currently looking for over $100 for a single copy of this card. However, you also have to keep in mind that this card is also extremely well known, as it is one of the most expensive necessary cards that was played in the infamous Teledad format. So collectors who want to rebuild that deck in max rarity will also want this card. And finally, guys, the last card I want to talk about here is Cyber Dragon. So this is kind of the card that made me want to make this video in the first place. I was just browsing through some posts on Facebook, and I saw someone asking $250 for a near mint first ed copy of this card, and I like legit thought it was a troll post, but apparently Unlimiteds, you're looking at like $170 to $180 a piece, and first eds, the cheapest ones online are like $270. Like that's the listed price right now. The crazy thing is that they're actually selling at like pretty high price points, like pretty close to that. Admittedly, Cyber Dragons are seeing quite a bit of play at the moment. Like Cyber Dragon Orchest is a really strong deck right now that can make Infinity in order to prevent getting Nibiru'd. Special shout out to Calvin at Locals, who I played against this weekend. He made Infinity, Galatea, and Dingirsu against me. He thought he was safe, but I had both Nibiru and Infinite Impermanence, so I still got to blow up the board. But yeah, Cyber Dragons have been a deck for like a year or two now, so this card reaching this price is something that has probably like built up gradually over time. Honestly, Cyber Dragon is one of the oldest cards on this list, and it's one of the most iconic cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Altogether, especially after Cyber Dragons were played by Zane in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX as well from the TV show. I don't know how many people are actually going to be willing to pay up for a single copy of this card, let alone a set. Honestly, if someone came up to me and offered me one for like $100, I'd still feel pretty weird about paying like that much for a single copy of Cyber Dragon. But yeah, if you have it, congratulations. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I know it's kind of sad to think about all of these really nice Yu-Gi-Oh cards that people have that we can't afford. One day maybe I will be able to afford at least something on this list. But yeah, please guys, thumbs up this video for me if you all enjoyed it. And of course, subscribe if you guys haven't already to see all of the latest content from MST.TV. We are almost at 50,000 subscribers. I know, it's crazy to think about. And I think Tombox and I are going to be planning some stuff for when we hit that milestone, which should be really soon, right? So stay tuned for that. And of course, guys, be sure to comment down below on what other crazy things are going on with the Yu-Gi-Oh market so that I can hopefully cover them in a future video. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.